Hello everyone, I hope you are all doing good. I welcome you to another class of English. Today we are going to learn a story called For a While Misunderstood Him. Now, this story was written by Jayant Narlikar. He is India's best known astrophysicist. Astrophysicist is a physicist who deals with explaining the physical phenomenon of space, and this is written about Stephen Hawking, who is one of the most famous cosmologists ever born. Right now, this story is taken from a newspaper article in the Times of India just the day after Stephen Hawking passed away. Okay, so this story is of Narlikar recounting. The story starts with Narlikar recounting an incident in the year 1963. In the year 1963, a colleague from King's College, Cambridge, he asked Narlikar that have you heard that doctors have told Stephen Hawking that he's going to live only for 2 more years. So when Narlikar heard this news, he was very shocked, because obviously anyone will be shocked on hearing somebody is going to die very soon. So immediately Narlikar recounted of the time when Stephen Hawking and him, they were working together at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich just 2 years ago. Now, an observatory is a place where there are huge telescopes are mounted from where you can see into the deep space. Now, about Greenwich, I think you must have heard this name in geography. This Greenwich is the same place from which the prime meridian, it passes through. Now, this was the time during the summer vacations, and summer vacations are a lot of fun in England. Well, they are fun everywhere. And at Greenwich, these guys were put up at an ancient fort. Okay, so the observatory was basically built on an ancient fort, and this ancient fort had a lot of greenery, and it had facilities for tennis, table tennis and billiards. And in all these games, Stephen Hawking also used to take part like any other regular student. Now, at that time, nobody had thought that Stephen had developed any sort of physical disability, right? I mean, he did not show any symptoms that he was going to develop a very severe disease. Yes, his speech was a little bit unclear. Speech means the way he talked was a little bit unclear. And these guys did not think that there was anything wrong with it, because the English elite, they used to speak with a similar fashion. Now, the English elite these are the people of the highest social class of England. Means they are the richest, they are the most educated, and they spoke in a certain fashion. And since Stephen Hawking also belonged to that social class, so they thought that he speaks like that because he's from that social class. And Narlikar thought that he acquired this accent, means his way of speaking English, at a big public school. And there was a big misunderstanding that people who spoke with that kind of an accent, they considered themselves special. They thought that they were better than the other people. Now, in the beginning, on hearing Stephen talking in that kind of fashion like the English elite used to speak, Narlikar thought, and Narlikar had that same misunderstanding about Stephen. But actually the fact was, his different or his strange way of speaking was one of the earliest symptoms of the disease that he was going to develop in the future. Right? Now, in the year 1962, Stephen received his degree from Oxford. I think you guys must have heard this name somewhere or the other. It is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. And he came to get a doctorate at Cambridge University. Now, Cambridge is the place where Narlikar was working. And he was to study there too. And they used to meet every day. Now, every day when these guys used to speak, Stephen Hawking's way of speaking remained the same. When Stephen used to speak, some words would slip away. Means, like for example, I'm speaking a sentence and I would, leave out a couple of words in the middle, and then I'll go to the next part of the sentence, right? So the thing was, this was one of the first symptom of the disability which was slowly engulfing him, which means that this see, in the beginning he had a little bit different speech pattern. Now slowly he used to slip words when he used to speak. Now these were all symptoms means these are signs of a particular illness. These were signs of the disability or the disease which in the future was going to affect Stephen, right? So when Narlikar heard the news that Stephen was going to is going to live only for the next 2 years, he was very, very shocked. Later, Narlikar was able to know that Stephen was suffering from a disease called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and it is a neuromuscular wasting disease which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Right. So from this word itself you must have got an idea what kind of disease this is. Neuromuscular means it must be affecting his nervous system, and muscular means it is affecting his muscular system, right? And these two systems are being wasted, means they are deteriorated by this disease, and this disease is more commonly called as Lou Gehrig's disease. Now, because of this disease, his bodily control was reduced to only flexing of a finger. Flexing means he could move only his finger, and he could voluntarily move only his eyes. Means you can understand the severity of the disease. Means the disease left Stephen completely paralyzed, except him being able to move his finger and his eyes. And there were rapid changes in his physical conditions after he joined Cambridge. Sometimes while walking he would stumble. Stumble means he would not be able to walk, he would stagger and he would fall. And even though he had all these conditions, he was suffering from all these symptoms, he completed his PhD thesis and he started his further research without taking much help from his guide. Right. So even though he had all these symptoms, he was not able to walk properly, he was not able to talk much properly, he did not take any help from his guide. Guide as in the teacher who helps you out when you are appearing for your PhD. So PhD is basically the doctorate. Means after you get your PhD, the prefix doctor is assigned to your name, right? In the year 1966 and 67, Stephen solved one of the difficult questions regarding Einstein's theory of relativity. Okay, here we are coming across another name, Einstein. This name you must have all heard. So Albert Einstein was also one of the most famous scientists, and he gave a famous theory called theory of relativity. And Stephen solved a difficult question of this. By the time he solved this, his illness took away his ability to use his hands for writing. Okay, so he started doing calculations in his mind, and since he was not able to do the calculations, his colleagues would listen to his unclear speech and they would note down the equations that Stephen dictated. And despite all of this, every equation was perfect. Just to give you an idea what this means, you all do mathematics, right? Try doing a sum of mathematics in a paper, you'll probably be able to do it easily. Now try doing something more difficult, like let us say a multiplication 343 into 212. Okay, now if I will try to solve this on paper, after some time I'll be able to do it too, right? It will take me some time to do it on paper, but I'll be able to do it. Now imagine doing this thing on your mind. It sounds actually very difficult, isn't it? Now imagine the most difficult questions of physics, but he was doing it in his mouth itself, in his speech itself, and none of them were ever wrong. Means everything was absolutely perfect. So that just shows that how much of a genius Stephen Hawking was at that time. Okay, now even though his body failed him, Stephen was able to use his brain and he continued his research, and in 69, 73, and he presented an important theory on black holes. Now about black holes, I told you the other day, black holes is the stage it is one of the last phase of the star's lifespan, when it actually attracts, basically it has such a strong gravity that it attracts everything which is nearby to it. And Stephen gave an important theory on that, and he in 1974 he discovered that even these black holes, they are able to emit radiation. Now radiation is basically, in simplest of terms, it is light, and this thing was called as the Hawking effect. Now Stephen's success was, even though he presented so much of scientific contributions to the world, this was not him alone. It was also because of the determination and the constant support which was given to him by his first wife. In the year 1964 and 65, Stephen became friends with Jane Wilde, and later he got married to her. See, here isn't Jane Wilde's decision to accept Stephen's disability and marry him also an equally courageous one? Because see, why would somebody marry a disabled person? And even though he was disabled, they both have two healthy children, a daughter and a son. Okay, now recently Stephen also lost his speech and he started using a voice processor. Now a voice processor is a device which is attached to his throat, by which he is able to speak, even though it is a computerized or a robotized voice. And during this time, Stephen he wrote a book called A Brief History of Time. And despite in the year 1963, when the doctors had told him that he had just 2 years of life to live, he proved all his doctors wrong. Even though he had such disabilities which would discourage normal people, he made such path-breaking, such huge contributions to fundamental science and physics in general. He showed everybody that with raw determination and courage, anything can be made possible. And he kept on working even until the point that his brain was functional. So this is a story about resilience. This is a story about extraordinary courage. And this is a story that when somebody decides to do something, then no force in the world can stop him. So I hope you understood this story, and I hope you learned something from it. Well, thank you for watching. Bye bye.